So here we are, a wet and windswept didcot. Now, I know what that means. You're all sitting there thinking they're about to do something GWR. They're going to do a western or a castle or another prairie, possibly another pannier. We might come to those at some point, but today, here for a different reason. This is our next project. My name is Paul Isles and I'm project manager at Accurascale. I'm going to head indoors into the carriage shed. So we're here at Didcot to announce this new project, but we could quite easily just have been at Tanfield or the Mid Norfolk or the North Norfolk or Keighley or the North York Moors, because this project is something very different for us here at Accurascale. We won't do too much teasing. What we're doing is we're announcing that we've taken over the ex-Hatton's Genesis project tooling. So we'll stop a minute there and just take things slowly. Firstly, Genesis. What's the concept of Genesis? Well, the original concept was to be an introduction to the hobby. Now, that doesn't matter whether it was an introduction to model railways, whether it was an introduction to the pre-grouping of railways, or whether that was an introduction to actually modelling. It's the beginning. The Genesis means the beginning, and that's what this range represents. Now, I know a lot of you will probably be wondering why Accurascale, who model highly accurate models of locomotives, coaches and wagons, would want to take on this tooling. And the simple answer is it's too good to let go. Saving the Genesis tooling was quite high up, and I've got history with this range of coaches anyway. It's something that I believe in and that Accurascale believe in and is worth pursuing. It introduces us to a whole new core market, and that's the whole point about railway modelling, is that it's not just for the hardened modeller or the hardened layout operator or the hardened rail enthusiast. It's also there to appeal to the newcomers to the hobby, to those people that are starting out, that have limited budgets, that have limited skills and want to improve them. And this is what we hope the Genesis project will encourage. So when we consider pre-grouping coaches, either 4-wheel or 6-wheel types, you kind of need to break it down into 3 levels: the roof, the body and the underframe. Now, the whole point of the Genesis range is you've got a fixed underframe. So for the 4-wheelers and 6-wheelers, they're consistent throughout the range, they don't change. The architecture that goes underneath does change, and that's reflected by whether it's vacuum braking, whether there's battery power, whether there is gas-powered lighting, and that affects the underframe furniture. Body-wise, we tend to want to break it down into different types. So your basic first, your second, your third, your composite, a full brake, a passenger brake. And these are the areas that we've got the tooling for at the moment and which we'll be making use of. Then roof-wise, again, you've got the different roof furniture. So like with this example, the GWR, you've got oil lamps fitted inside, so you've got the ventilators on the top. Those, of course, change as you switch round to electric lighting later on. In the 1920s, 1930s, as these were utilised in grouping. And what we'll be doing as we go through is introducing new roof profiles, so things like the clerestory, the gate stock, those with verandas, those with lookouts. These are roofs that you can look forward to seeing in future runs. Body-wise, fairly standard. I mean, we have changed the position of the duckets on the full brake for this run to make them central as opposed to diagonally opposed, and that just opens up the type of van that we want to portray. So we can introduce things like mail vans and newspaper vans into the tooling. Say underframe wise is fairly fixed, and we're not going to be interfering with that too much. The whole point of that being that you can take what is a common length on those two, on the four-wheel and six-wheel chassis, and you can, if you like, separate them. And if you're modelling the pre-grouping era properly, and you've got body kits that you've produced either from brass kits or scratch built yourselves, you can place those onto the chassis, which is a ready-built chassis, and they should be able to help you with your modelling rather than having to create your own chassis as well. So there you go. That's your basic anatomy of a six-wheel coach in this case. So what we'll do, and I know what you're wanting to know, is what are we actually producing in the next run? So what we'll do is we'll go up to the office and we'll take you through the models inch by inch. So that's it, inside, out of the cold now, and we're back in the office and we have the decoration samples in front of us. So as you can see, we're quite advanced in this project. We've had our first decoration samples through for both the four-wheel and the six-wheel types. All the feedback's been done to the factory, so there's certain little gremlins and bits and pieces that need sorting, but as an overall set of decoration samples, I'm really pleased with how this has gone. But this isn't just about decoration samples. Obviously, the project has had quite a life before that, and it's interesting when you take over tooling, rescue the Genesis project from where it was, that there's quite a bit of work for the factory that's involved. And it will also show you how we intend investing in the future of this particular project and tooling suite. So having bought the tooling, we've transferred it from the factory that it was in to a factory that we use that is particularly suited to the production of these coaches. The factory bring the tooling in, they have to run the tests, they basically squirt plastic in to see that the tools are still working, and they have to adapt the tools to their own working practices. Now, there's a lot of other parts, but we can break the Genesis coaches down really into four main sections. Obviously, you've got the chassis, either six-wheel or the four-wheel chassis. So they are set in stone, that's what everything is based on. We've then got the bodies, both fixed length, but we can derive a number of types from each one. And this gives us a chance to invest in the tooling in the future because we can add body types, we can make adjustments to the windows, whether we want a different feel to them, and what we actually do, because it's not just going to be about passenger coaches. We've also got the option for developing the chassis and doing other rolling stock in the future as well. The next item we've got are the interior units, and this gives us quite an opportunity to have a mess around really. Again, both four-wheel coach and six-wheel coach interiors. And there's some elements of the four-wheel coach that we need to introduce, things like full brakes, luggage vans that haven't been done as yet. Six-wheel we're fairly well covered, but we'll take the opportunity to have a look at new interiors for those as well as we go through. Now the final item of the four main parts are the roofs, and this is again where we can make quite a difference in the future to the tooling. At the moment we've got traditional arc roofs, but in the future we can expand these into clerestory roofs or into central verandas or even into end gated stock. Now this way will benefit not just the variety that we can bring you for the UK side, but also for the Irish side as well. So all in all, when you break it down, the potential for development with this project is huge. If we come to what we're doing in this run with the decoration samples, if I take you through firstly the four-wheel stock that we've got. At the far end you can see we've got the Metropolitan Railway stock in teak, and this is very nice. This comes from the Aylesbury and Chesham services and would have been a mainline set. And it's important again to emphasise that although these coaches are generic, the liveries aren't. The liveries are well researched and will stick to the Accurascale way, if you like. So putting something that is accurate onto a generic body. It's our take on the Genesis project. Then it brings you to the Great Eastern Railway jazz stock, and we've got 6 coaches, so that's 3 double packs there. And this takes us back to the Enfield sets. And what we try to do here is to give you the chance either to build up a short set, an expanded set, or even go for a full 12-car jazz set. And these will go ideally with the buck jumpers and possibly some other future projects that we've got lined up. We come then to the Cambrian sets, chosen more really for the fact that it's a really nice livery. That Welsh coaching stock has been neglected. And I know there'll be some of you out there that are kit building that will be looking for coaches to tide you over. And those hopefully will take that. It's a very attractive livery in the green and cream. And look forward to seeing how that goes down. Of course, again, future projects, so you may well be seeing something a little bit more appropriate in haulage at some point. We can also come back. So we've taken the chance to alter the tooling on the full brakes. Whereas before we had offset duckets, we changed it to the more traditional centre ducket types, and this has allowed us to investigate the mail vans. Behind me you'll see here the Scotsman. Now this was a set of coaches, 12 run in a rake. These were newspaper vans which would have run up and down, and we've opted, although we have the opportunity to do the MBR versions, we've taken the opportunity to do them in their LNER form. So that would have been as a similar to the diagram 24 carriages. And it's a really nice livery to do. We've had a lot of help from the MBR Society on getting the livery right and getting the actual artwork correct for the Scotsman. And that's one of the things that happens in these projects, that although it's generic, we're looking for accuracy in the liveries, which is why we're able to go to societies and talk about this and get the right livery onto the coaches for the periods that we're trying to portray. We also come across to the LMS Royal Mail vans. Now, we're used to the TPO sets with their offset vestibules, gangways rather, but often a end coach was added that would have been a 6-wheel coach even up into the Stanier period. These would have been non-gangwayed and would have been used for the carrying of mail bags, parcels. They'd have been sorted, basically a tender really, and these would have shuttled backwards and forwards on the end and would have been dropped off the end of the main post office rake. And finally, it brings us to the LNER camping coaches, which are an interesting little side project in themselves. These familiar green and cream coaches were dotted around the country, mainly in the eastern and the northeastern regions, where they'd be deposited on station sidings, on branch lines, and where families would be able to spend their week in something a little bit more comfortable than a tent with cooking facilities. And there was even the option under the LNER, something they introduced, whereby you could organise your own tour itinerary, which means that not only can you have these as part of a diorama sat in a branch line station, but you've also got the possibility of a Rule 1 coach being pulled behind a tank engine of whatever variety or small 060 tender, which just gives you that Rule 1 aspect to running your layout. So aside from the changes to the full brake to bring the duckets as central as we can, we've also simplified the lighting suite in these. Now, the last run of Hattons would have had lighting controlled by DCC. And what we've done is we've gone back to our traditional, if you like, way of doing things with magnetically operated lighting. So each coach is fitted with lighting as standard, and they come with the magnetic catch. So again, they're track powered, you can switch them on and off. So they've got stay alives in there, so you haven't got to worry about them flickering as you go through. So again, a standard Accurascale feature that we've brought to the Genesis range. And with everything we've got a lot of variations that we can take forward. It's quite exciting, not just to take over the Genesis tooling, but to look at what we can do in the future with this as well. So that brings us to the end of our launch video for the Genesis range. Like I say, we welcome your feedback and your thoughts. All of the items you see in front of you are available for pre-ordering now, and you can see the different sets that we're doing and the prices down in the comments below. Other than that, thank you very much for listening to me. Look forward to bringing you another launch video soon, and good luck with your modelling.